in classical music, everybody knew. Everybody's known about this for decades, for generations. The people that don't know are the general public. And I think the only way anything is going to change is if pressure comes from without.
We're here today. We have the great honor of speaking with Lara St. John, the director of Dear Lara. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. This is a very special and intensely powerful film.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much.
It absolutely is true, and I know it tells your story, begins with your story,
Mhm.
but how did the film come to be? Why did you want to tell your story in this way?
I became public in 2019 about what happened to me at the Curtis Institute of Music, which is a really elite, like full scholarship music school with like maximum 200 students, I think, in Philadelphia. And yeah, it's a sad story, obviously. And after this huge 5,000 word article in the Philly Inquirer, I thought, oh, well, okay, that's going to happen. And then people will know, and hopefully it'll help some folks. And I'll just keep on going with what I was doing before in my life. And I heard from so many people, like in the high hundreds, if not thousands, at this point, that I just thought, well, I can't walk away from this, you know. And then I just immediately thought, I think I need to document some of these stories, you know, if they'll allow me. And I reached out to pretty much, I think everybody who ever reached out to me. And and some of them, the stories were so compelling that I thought I have to tell these somehow. And that's how it began, because all their letters began, Dear Lara, this happened to me with my music teacher, my music school, etc. And so eventually, over the course of 7 years, it became the documentary that you recently saw. And so I think there's eight of us representing thousands,
Yeah.
basically, and we all want this movie to make change in our very small but very backwards profession of classical music.
It really is. It when I don't want to I don't want to minimize it by saying it's an emotional gut punch, but gut punch because I don't want to make it, oh, it's this emotional thing. This is incredibly powerful, and for so many people to be speaking out,
Mhm.
and especially in response to your story. How does that impact you? I mean, you share your story, and then the floodgates open. How does that affect you personally?
Well, it's been a heavy journey in a way. I mean, now, I mean, I'm holding a lot of stories because a lot of people can't become public, but they've spoken to me, and you know, and I try to give the best advice I can. And yeah, I mean, what we all want now, I mean, the majority of the people in the film, as you noticed, are more or less around my age, which is I became public when I was 48 years old. And um, we just want it to be possible for somebody who is 24 to be able to either become public without professional retribution, which is what would happen now, um, or just for this not to happen to them anymore. And the only way to do that is to get rid of the institutional complicity. I mean, that's a machine. And that was one of my big surprises when I was starting to do the research and like reach back out to all these people, is I thought Curtis was the only school that was so horrible to its students, considering what it did to me. And I found out that that's not the case. Like worldwide, the orchestras, the opera companies, the schools, all of them are very much more invested in their own reputation and protecting the predator than they are in the students, in the women, in the children. And that was a shock to me because I kind of thought that was just me, but it's everywhere. And that's something that has to be uh, exposed to the world and, you know, a light shone upon it.
Yeah, it's interesting in the description of the film. I think it's on the website. Talks about the worship of reputation over justice.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that and how like you we don't think about this in the music industry. We've heard the stories from so many other places. I mean, when I
Hmm.
say music, I mean the classical music for some reason. Maybe it's just because we haven't heard the stories. Uh,
Well, that's the thing because because everybody's been silenced,
yeah.
and there's even been NDAs and stuff like that. I mean, and the institutions have shoved it under the carpet for so long, like for generations now, and it's just so not accepted to talk about it. And I think the general public has this vision of classical musicians sort of, dancing around in like Marie Antoinette costumes, playing pretty tunes or something, which is not the case at all. But some people have that impression and they think, oh, nothing bad could ever happen. It's kind of like a little fairyland, I think, for people. And they don't know that under the carpet and behind the curtain and after the show, there's a really sordid underbelly. And that happens, in my opinion, because necessarily in classical music, you have to start very, very young. Like I myself was 2 when I began, and I know how ridiculous that sounds. I played my first concerto when I was 4, and it's kind of a little bit like gymnastics and skating, but like for example, people will say, "Oh, abuse happens in all professions," but actually, you don't have 8-year-old accountants or like 12-year-old physicists or 13-year-old CEOs. So it does, yes, but this is particularly bad because not only are there a lot of children, but there's a ridiculous amount of power given to men in positions of power. So to the conductors, to the concertmasters, to the teachers, like kind of messianic guru-like power. And that's not to say that there aren't a lot of men out there with this power who aren't completely nice, decent folks. But unfortunately, it seems to attract people who misuse that power and abuse it against women and children and some men.
Yeah, it's one of these it's another space that we see now is so widespread.
Hmm.
But like you said, the stories have been silenced for so long and um I wondered, the other victims or survivors, I should say survivors that you've spoken to,
Hmm.
the impact of sharing their story to you. Now you're holding their stories, some that you can't say, some that are in the film.
Right.
But what impact did that ability to speak out have on them or did you find one?
I think it's been great actually for everyone in the film. 2 of the women in the film originally, when I spoke to them in 2020, when I got back to them right after the article, they were like, "Well, I just wanted you to know this. I would never be able to become public." And then over the course of 2 or 3 years, they're like, "You know what? I have to talk about this. Come back, film me, use my name." You know, and I thought, well, wow, that's pretty intense and wonderful. And I was so glad that in the end, everybody in the film now has their own face and their own name. There's nobody behind a screen. We're not hiding anymore. And I don't want anyone to have to hide. Thus, the film, really. And there's
That was
there's a lot there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's a lot more stories out there. There's journalists I'm working with that I've put together with other survivors that are going to bring out other stories. So, there I could easily make a Dear Lara part 2, part 3, part 4, but for the moment, it's all really about this world premiere here in Santa Barbara. So, and I hope from there it becomes like the little snowball that starts the avalanche, that people aren't just are not gonna accept this anymore.
you mentioned about using their names, and that was one thing I noticed in this film is it's not there was an alleged person or this we spoke to one person. We're using names for everyone.
Yes.
And that's incredibly powerful. Like that's were there issues with that, or are all these stories documented enough that that can be done? Because that was quite striking.
Well, I mean, my film and producer and me spent quite a few months with a fair use lawyer and a privacy lawyer. And there's at certain points, all of the stuff that happened in Manchester, England, for example, is documented. It's been documented in The Guardian, The Independent, The Times, and so at that point, they can't really accuse us of lying or anything like that. It's out there, and I have witnesses who are talking about it and stuff. Some of the stories are breaking, in fact. And my own story, I forced the Curtis Institute to do an extensive report from outside lawyers, and they found me to be incredibly credible. And they found many other instances of abuse at the same school with the same teacher. So at this point, it's like, well, I don't think Curtis really has anything to sue me about, for example, because they admitted this,
Yeah.
first of all. So there's the guy that we talk about in England, the bass teacher, Duncan McTeer, he admitted to assault. And the fact that he was allowed to keep teaching in other countries, even though he was a sex predator in England, is unbelievable, but it's true. So, you know, we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty confident that everything that is in my film is absolutely true.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, one of the descriptions, your film is that it's a force for change. You've talked a little bit about that, but in your mind, what does that look like for you with Dear Lara, being a force for change?
So if you notice, sort of near the end, there's us at a rally in front of Lincoln Center and stuff like that. And there's all these t-shirts with everybody knew. And that's the truth. In classical music, everybody knew. Everybody's known about this for decades, for generations. The people that don't know are the general public. And I think the only way anything is going to change is if pressure comes from without. Because we've had pressure from within for all these years and everybody just gets silenced. And so now it has to be bigger. It has to be global and it has to be worldwide. And people just have to say, I'm not going to accept this anymore. And if that kind of I'm not going to accept this comes from the people who buy the tickets to the symphony, then that's going to make them change. If schools are held responsible and parents are like, oh, I don't think I want my kid going to that school because this happened there, then that's going to make them change. Little me all by myself, it's not going to happen, but maybe little me with my film and a whole bunch of other people and all the people we're representing kind of clamoring together for it. Maybe then we can clean out this morass of misconduct of a profession.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love in your film that you point out as well that art and music supposed to be the height of humanity. You say at one point, and then later on you points out that music and being used sexually are fused.
Well, for some of these girls, that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what happened to you're quoting Lisa Marie there. Um, yeah, and also like just as an artist, as a musician, you go into your lesson with your major teacher and you are supposed to be vulnerable. That's
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. You're expressing your soul and your creativity. And these monsters take advantage of that. And that makes it almost even worse than just your average kind of thing because they're taking advantage of what it is you love and what it is you will sacrifice for. And I mean, I think it's kind of akin to, well, you remember Spotlight in 2012 and all the trouble with the Catholic Church and all this kind of stuff. I mean, for those children, they were told that, if they didn't do terrible things, they would get killed by fire and brimstone and God and all this kind. I mean, just using that kind of belief system against children I don't think there's a whole lot more evil in the world.
Yeah.
So that is what I want to change. And anyone who says, "Oh, she's exaggerating," or "Why does this have to change? Let's just keep it the same way." I'd like to say, "Hey, what's in your closet, dude?" you know, but
Um, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is and like I said, this is a film that speaks truth honestly, forthrightly, and I'm going to use the term flatly, but I just mean bluntly. It's like it's just this is what happened, and this is what continues to happen, and it needs to stop happening.
right.
And that's one of the things I appreciate it so about it so much.
Thank you.
It's very well spoken and well said, and
Well,
uh,
I think that's also because, at first, before I had my producer and my team, it was just me and a little camera. But at the same time, my whole point was to be able to go and talk to these people, and they know who they're talking to. They know my story because that's why they reached out. So obviously, they know my story.
right.
That way, they're talking to a fellow musician, a fellow survivor. And I think, I mean, I don't want to blow my horn here, but I think I managed to get some very, very genuine testimonial from everyone. Like, and nobody was sort of over the top or screaming. Like everybody's like, this is what happened. It's just factual, but the facts themselves are so terrible that it's almost more horrifying to hear it in a calm voice.
Yeah,
So, if you know what I mean.
yeah, I do. Actually, that's a great point because I mean, certainly not that it would be, but this isn't sensationalized at all. This is just you need to know what happened, and here it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's intense power in that. It is such an incredible film.
Thank you. Really, that means a lot. It's very funny because my whole life, I mean, I guess in my profession, it's a very small profession, but I'm pretty well known. And I've always been, yeah, you're Canadian too, are you not?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Newmarket. Do you know where Newmarket is? Are you from
Newmarket. I'm
outside
from, yeah,
Toronto?
I do know Newmarket. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm originally from London, Ontario.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure.
Yeah. So, as a sort of Midwestern Canadian sort of like lower middle class, like you're just kind of taught not to be boastful about things. And I basically I've never been like, oh, I've won a Juno, I'm an Order of Canada. Like, I never kind of come out with that sort of thing or boast about violin playing or something. But, with this film, the fact that I'm representing so many people, not just the others in the film, but the thousands behind us, I have become shameless. I'm just like, yes, everybody talk about it. Everybody do this. Here's a postcard. Come to the premiere, I mean, it's really it's a completely different kettle of fish for me, and it's something kind of like it's definitely new.
But
But
shameless in the best of ways. This is an important type of shameless.
yeah, shameless in a good way because I just the most important thing, the only thing I really care about right now is getting that out to as many people as possible so that the truth gets out there. And yeah, and so we have the world premiere is on Friday, February 6th here in Santa Barbara. I just got here yesterday. And there's a couple of extra screenings after that, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
I love it.
And yeah, I mean, it's my first red carpet.
Oh, that's so exciting. That'll be fun.
I know it really is. Like, playing concerts is not the same thing as a red carpet. So it's like very exciting. And just on a Canadian note, I there's a great illustrator, Anita Kuntz. I don't know if you know her. She does a lot of Rolling Stone covers,
Oh yeah.
and anyway, she's based in Toronto, and she did a picture of me. Actually, can you give me 1 minute to
Sure.
go grab it? So I had a gown and a tunic made by Call and Response in Toronto. And this is Anita's art.
Wow.
So this is
Oh,
Death
that's
in the Making.
stunning.
And as you know, her art is in the film. And so now it's part of my dress. And then as some of her sisters, she drew me as Samson.
I love it. Wow.
So I call it Samsara. So I'm going to be very Canadian on the red carpet because the dresses are made in Toronto. The illustrations are Anita Kunz, who's a Toronto illustrator, and of course, John Fluvog's on the feet. I'm a floozy.
Love it. I love it. Honestly, Laura, honestly, congratulations on the film. And I
Thank
really
you.
do hope that this helps empower so many other youth who are dealing with the same thing and prevent more stories like this happening.
Yeah, it's the prevention I'm the most interested in, obviously. I mean, the only way have to not be damaged is to just never have this happen at all. So
Yeah,
we have to
well, I
work for that.
appreciate that. Honestly, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it, and good luck at the premiere. I'm sure it's going
Thank
to
you.
be great.
Well, we'll see. I kind of just don't know what to expect. So I'm just gonna wear my beautiful things and smile, I guess.
I love it. Thanks so much, Laura. Have a great day.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.